Your boss just blindsided you in the meeting, called out your numbers in front of everyone. Your heart's pounding, your face is hot. You know exactly what you want to say. Here's what most people don't know. One of these 9 situations is so dangerous that speaking, even once, can end your career advancement permanently. Another one actually gets you promoted faster when you master it. And there's one Marcus Aurelius used to handle senators who wanted him dead. In his private journal, what we call meditations, Marcus Aurelius kept returning to one idea. Most problems solve themselves if you simply refuse to add your voice to them. He wasn't being passive, he was being strategic. When a senator would challenge him publicly, when generals would question his decisions, when Rome itself seemed to be falling apart, he had a framework for deciding when silence was strength, not weakness. You're not running an empire, but you are navigating office politics, difficult bosses, and colleagues who'd love to see you slip up. Same principles apply. Here are 9 specific situations where the Stoics chose silence. Not because they had nothing to say, they had plenty, but because speaking would cost them more than it would gain them. I'm going to show you exactly when to use each one, what it looks like in your workplace, and why it builds the kind of executive presence that gets you noticed for the right reasons. Let's start with the most common mistake mid-level professionals make. First situation, when someone's trying to get a reaction. You know this person. Maybe it's a colleague who makes subtle digs in meetings. Maybe it's a boss who criticizes your work in front of others. Maybe it's that one team member who questions everything you suggest, not because they care about the project, but because they enjoy watching you defend yourself. Marcus Aurelius called these people those who throw stones. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Here's what that looks like on Monday morning. They make their comment. Everyone's watching to see how you'll respond. And you do this. Pause for 3 seconds. Then you calmly move to the next agenda item. That's it. No defense, no explanation, no matching their energy. Why does this work? Because you just refuse to play the game they set up. They were looking for a reaction, frustration, defensiveness, anger. Those reactions would have made them look reasonable and you look emotional. Instead, you treated their comment like a leaf floating by on a river. It existed, and then it was gone. Your silence says, "That's beneath my response," which is far more powerful than any comeback you could have prepared. The people watching? They noticed. They saw someone try to bait you, and they saw you refuse to bite. That's executive presence. Try this week. Next time someone takes a shot, count to 3 in your head. Then continue like nothing happened. Second situation, when you're genuinely angry. This is different from being provoked. This is when you have every right to be upset. Someone actually did drop the ball, or take credit for your work, or throw you under the bus. You're not imagining it. It's real. Epictetus, who trained Marcus Aurelius in Stoicism, taught, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." Think about that. The moment you speak while angry, you've handed control to the other person. Here's the scenario. Your colleague just presented your idea as theirs in the executive meeting. You weren't even invited. Now you're sitting at your desk and they walk by with a smile. Every instinct says, confront them right now. Don't. Marcus Aurelius wrote himself a note about this. How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the circumstances that aroused them? Here's your move. Stay silent in the moment. Let them walk away. Then, and this is critical, write down exactly what you want to say. Every word. Get it out. Then close that document and wait 24 hours. Why? Because angry words can't be taken back. But strategic action, planned when you're calm actually gets results. Tomorrow, you can send that email to your boss with the paper trail showing the idea was yours. You can schedule a private conversation. You can even decide it's not worth your energy. But you make that choice from a position of power, not emotion. The person who stays silent when angry doesn't lack courage. They have more courage than the person who reacts immediately, because silence requires control. Try this week. Next time you're angry at work, write it all down. Don't send it. Wait until tomorrow. Third situation. When someone's telling you their problems and you have the perfect solution. Your coworker is venting about their project, or their boss, or their marriage, and you're sitting there thinking, I know exactly what they should do. I've been through this. Let me tell them. Hold that thought. Seneca wrote, "We often suffer more in imagination than in reality." Sometimes people aren't looking for solutions, they're processing reality. Picture this. Your teammate is stressed about a presentation. You immediately jump in with advice. Just do this, structure it this way, use these slides. They nod, but you notice they seem more frustrated after your help than before. Here's what happened. You just told them their problem has an easy solution, which means they're either incompetent for not seeing it, or they're making it harder than it needs to be. Instead, try this. Stay silent. Let them talk. When they pause, ask, "What do you think you'll do?" Not, "What should you do?" Notice the difference. You're positioning them as capable of solving their own problem. Most of the time, they'll figure it out while talking. And they'll thank you for being such a good listener. You didn't actually do anything except stay silent and ask one question. This builds trust faster than giving advice ever could. Try this week. When someone shares a problem, resist the urge to solve it. Just listen completely. Quick question, and I'm genuinely curious about this. Which of these three situations do you struggle with most? The provocation? Your own anger? Or the urge to solve everyone's problems? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. Fourth situation. When you don't know the full story. This happens constantly in the workplace. Someone makes a decision that seems stupid. A project gets canceled that seemed important. A person gets promoted who doesn't deserve it. And you have opinions, strong ones. Marcus Aurelius warned himself, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. Here's the trap. You're in the break room. People are talking about the new policy change. Everyone agrees it's idiotic. The pressure to join in is strong. You want to be part of the group. So you add your voice to the complaint. 2 weeks later, you learn the full context. There were legal reasons, or budget constraints, or strategic planning you weren't aware of. And now, you were the person who publicly called something idiotic that actually made sense. The move: stay silent. If pressed, say exactly this: I don't have enough context to have an informed opinion yet. That's it. No apology, no explanation. This does something powerful. It positions you as thoughtful rather than reactive, as someone who waits for data before forming conclusions. That's exactly how executives think. The people who speak first look foolish later. The people who speak last look wise. Try this week. When gossip or complaints start, practice this phrase: I don't have enough context yet. Fifth situation. When staying quiet will make them talk. This is advanced. This is what separates managers from executives. You're in a negotiation, or a performance review, or a difficult conversation with a colleague. They make their statement. Then they stop. And there's silence. Most people, and I mean most, will rush to fill that silence. They'll explain, justify, add more information, and every word they add gives you more power. Marcus Aurelius observed, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Sometimes you win by not making the next move." Here's what this looks like. Your boss says, "We're not approving your budget request." Everything in you wants to argue immediately. Instead, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Keep your expression neutral. Wait. Often, they'll keep talking. "Well, it's just that finance is concerned about." Now you have more information. You know it's not your idea that's the problem. It's finance's concerns. Different problem, different solution. Or in a negotiation, they give you their offer. You stay silent. They get uncomfortable. "I mean, we might be able to go a bit higher." You didn't say a word, and the price just went up. Silence is pressure. Learn to use it. Try this week. In your next negotiation or difficult conversation, try staying silent after their first statement. Count to 5. 6th situation. When you don't need to defend yourself. Someone challenges your competence, questions your decision, implies you don't know what you're doing, and you have 15 years of experience that says otherwise. Don't list your credentials. Don't recite your resume. Don't prove anything. Epictetus taught, if someone speaks badly of you, consider the source. If they are someone whose opinion you respect, examine yourself. If they are not, continue on your way. Picture this. You're in a meeting. A newer employee, maybe someone with an MBA who's been here 6 months, questions your approach. "I'm not sure that's the best methodology. Have you considered?" Here's what weak people do. They get defensive. "Actually, I've been doing this for 15 years, and..." Now they look insecure. Here's what people with real authority do. "That's an interesting perspective. Let me think about that." Then they continue with their plan. Why? Because everyone in that room knows your track record. Your results speak for themselves. The person questioning you will either learn and apologize later, or they'll keep questioning and reveal themselves as someone who doesn't understand hierarchy or expertise. Either way, your silence, your refusal to defend, actually strengthens your position. You're so secure in your competence that challenges don't threaten you. Try this week. Next time someone questions your expertise, acknowledge their input without defending yourself. Then continue. "I'm curious. How many years of experience do you have in your current role? Because this next situation is specifically for people who've been around long enough to know better." Let me know in the comments. 7th situation. When you're holding someone else's confidence. Someone trusted you with information. Maybe a coworker told you they're looking for another job. Or your boss mentioned layoffs are coming. Or you heard something in confidence about a colleague's personal situation. Now people are asking, or gossip is spreading, or you could look knowledgeable by sharing what you know. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is simple, but not easy. You stay silent, completely, even when pressed. Even when everyone else is sharing their insider information. Did you hear about Sarah? I don't engage in speculation about colleagues. But don't you know? If Sarah wants to share something with me, she will. Here's what this does. It marks you as trustworthy, as someone executives can confide in, as someone who can handle sensitive information without spreading it. You know what's rare in middle management? People who can keep their mouths shut. You know what every executive values above almost everything else? Discretion. Every time you stay silent when you could have shared something juicy, you're building a reputation that will carry you further than any gossip ever could. Try this week. If someone asks you to confirm or deny gossip, practice this. I don't speculate about colleagues. 8th situation. When repeating yourself makes you look weak. You're in a meeting. You made your recommendation. It was clear. It was good. And then, silence. So you explain it again. Then you add more context. Then you rephrase it. Then you give an example. Stop. Seneca warned, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." That includes being unconquerable by your own need for approval. Here's the dynamic. Every time you repeat yourself, you signal that you don't trust your own message. You're seeking validation. You're hoping that if you just explain it one more way, they'll finally agree. But that's not how influence works. Real authority sounds like this. Here's my recommendation. Pause. That's it? You said it. You're done. They can ask questions if they need clarification. They can disagree if they want. But you don't need to convince them. You need to inform them. Marcus Aurelius made decisions that affected millions. He didn't explain them repeatedly. He made them, communicated them clearly, and moved on. When you stop talking, you force others to respond. When you keep talking, you let them stay passive while you work harder and harder to persuade them. Say it once. Say it well. Then stay silent. Try this week. Make one recommendation in a meeting. Then stop talking. Don't explain further unless asked. 9th situation. When you're about to complain. This is the hardest one, because sometimes things actually do suck. The workload is unreasonable. The resources are inadequate. The management is incompetent. And you want to say something. Marcus Aurelius spent years fighting wars on the frontier, dealing with plagues, managing a crumbling economy. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Here's the trap. You're in the break room. People are complaining about the new policy, the increased workload, whatever. You want to join in. It feels good to vent. It builds camaraderie. But here's what actually happens. Every complaint you voice labels you as a complainer, even if everyone agrees, even if you're right. Executives don't promote people who complain. They promote people who solve problems. So instead of complaining, try this. Stay silent. Then, when you're in the right setting with the right person, present a solution. Not a complaint with a solution attached, just a solution. "I noticed we're struggling with X. I think we could solve it by doing Y. What do you think?" That's the difference between a manager and an executive. Managers complain about problems. Executives present solutions. Try this week. Catch yourself before you complain. Either say nothing or present a solution instead. Notice the pattern in all 9 situations. Every single time, staying silent gave you control. Control over your emotions. Control over your reputation. Control over the conversation. Control over your career. Marcus Aurelius understood something that most people never learn. The person who speaks first, speaks most, or speaks loudest isn't the person with power. The person who knows when not to speak. That's who has real authority. You've spent years building expertise. You know your field. You've earned your position. But if you haven't mastered strategic silence, you're giving away the very influence you've worked so hard to build. These 9 situations aren't about being passive. They're about being precise. Speaking when it matters. Staying silent when it strengthens you. That's executive presence. Here's the bonus most people miss. This works at home too. When your teenager is upset, sometimes silence is better than advice. When your partner is processing something difficult, sometimes presence is better than solutions. When family drama is swirling, sometimes staying out of it is the wisest move. The Stoics didn't separate work life from personal life. They built character that worked everywhere. Master these 9 situations at work this week. Notice how they change things at home, too. You started this video dealing with difficult colleagues, challenging bosses, and workplace politics that frustrated you. Now you have 9 specific moments where strategic silence builds the influence you've been working toward. Subscribe for practical Stoic strategies every week. Next video, the 5 phrases Marcus Aurelius used to end arguments before they started. Drop a comment telling me which situation you're trying first Monday morning. I respond to everyone. Remember, executive by day. Stoic always. You're closer to where you belong than you think. Stay silent when it counts. Speak when it matters.